Okay, welcome to Paul Villarreal's UFC 71 preview. Today we're going to talk about, I'm just going to focus particularly on the fight between Chuck Liddell and Quinton Jackson. Alright, for anybody, any major MMA fans understand what happened in the first fight between these two great fighters. It was in Pride, and Chuck Liddell was the UFC champion at that time. And Pride extended an invitation for Chuck Liddell to come over and fight some of their top fighters and enter their light heavyweight tournament, and so he did that. In the second round of the tournament, Liddell faced Jackson, and if you don't know Liddell's style, Liddell is basically a striker, meaning he's not the best guy on the ground, but he's very good at throwing his hands and his legs, but particularly with his hands. Well, the thing about Jackson that made him so good against Liddell in terms of styles was Jackson has a great chin, and Jackson is incredibly strong, just naturally a powerful man. And so Jackson was able to absorb Liddell's strikes and basically overpower him and just pretty much maul him. I think he might have hurt his ribs a little bit. Essentially there were 3 rounds. I think it was scheduled for 3 rounds, and Liddell had to, his corner had to throw in the towel after the second round just because of how much punishment he was taking. So that brings us to tonight's fight. Liddell is certainly the favorite in terms of betting odds. Liddell is certainly the favorite in terms of rooting prospects. Liddell is certainly the favorite in terms of who the UFC wants to win. This is only Jackson's, I think, second fight in UFC, and I think it's a little bit early for Jackson in terms of his experience within the octagon versus in like a boxing ring, which is what Pride was fought in. I think that Jackson has, well, I don't even think this, I mean, this is true. Jackson has, you know, I don't know if he's at his peak. He's had some, I think he's had some personal issues to deal with, and in terms of his development as a fighter, he's had some different issues going on. Like some people actually feel as though he's regressed, and if the first fight with Chuck was actually his peak as a fighter. Since that time, he's been knocked out twice by Wanderlei Silva. He's had some other just developmental issues in terms of his ability as a fighter, and I think that you know, this isn't the peak time for Quinton Jackson to be facing Chuck Liddell. Chuck Liddell's on a roll. Chuck Liddell's feeling great about himself, and we just don't know if that's the case with Quinton Jackson. That being the case, what do I think is going to happen tonight? If I have to pick a winner, I have to go with Liddell. Everything favors him except the matchup. You know, fights are matchups, you know, boxing matches. You can have fighter A who cannot beat fighter B, but he can beat fighter C. And fighter C can't beat fighter B. For example, I'm trying to think of some of the boxers that have followed that same pattern. Okay, Roberto Duran, Thomas Hearns, Sugar Ray Leonard. The first time Sugar Ray Leonard and Roberto Duran fought, Duran won. Now, I know that Duran lost to Leonard the second time around very easily, but when Tommy Hearns first fought Duran, he had no trouble. He knocked him out right away. But Leonard had trouble with Duran, whereas Leonard had some trouble with Hearns, but not too much trouble. I mean, in the first fight it was close, but you know, just styles make fights, and I think that we're going to see tonight a very good style matchup. I look for Jackson to be aggressive. He's not going to want to sit in Liddell's range where Liddell can just land on him. He's going to try to close the distance. Liddell has a great sprawl. Sprawl is the ability to defend against somebody taking you down and a wrestling hold taking you down to the ground. Liddell's very good at that. Jackson's going to want to get a hold of him and slam him. That's like Jackson's patented move, is to body slam his opponents in a variety of ways. And Liddell's going to try to stay on his feet and throw punches. If he throws punches, that's his zone, that's his area. So if Liddell is able to keep the fight on his feet, then you'll know that Liddell is in control of the fight. If Jackson is able to get into Chuck's body, take it down, you know, bully him around, then you'll know that it's Jackson's type of a fight. We'll see what happens. As of right now, I've got to go with Liddell, probably third round stoppage. I mean, one thing we all know about Quinton Jackson is that he can definitely take a shot. So he's not going to get out of there too early unless Chuck lands something lucky, basically. So, I don't know. Who do you got? Who are you rooting for? I guess we'll find out tonight. UFC 71 should be huge. ESPN News carried the live weigh-in yesterday, which is great. Sport is on the rise. There's a great undercard, and it's something like 8 or 9 fights. They all look to be fairly solid. So we'll see you at the fights. Let us know what you think about this. Talk to you later.